Welcome to Canadian Times. This week in the news, OISE at University of Toronto is presenting the Bodies at Play Symposium with a well-known pedophilia advocate. Does such a symposium give us a glimpse into why this pedagogical philosophy that exposes our children to explicit sex at such young ages now dominates our school system? We're going to be right back with these stories and more in just one moment. Welcome back to Canadian Times. This week in the news, we ask the question, why is our government, through the Ministry of Education, exposing our children to radical explicit sex at such young ages, even as young as kindergarten? Why do they have such a pedagogical philosophy? Well, the answer may be found in this symposium that I'm going to tell you about. OISE, Ontario Institute for Studies and Education, Ontario's largest Teachers College at University of Toronto, is presenting on October the 19th a symposium called Bodies at Play. Bodies at Play, with children on the poster. And yes, these Bodies at Play will be led by a well-known pedophilia advocate, a man who is well known for his numerous books advocating for the right of pedophiles to have sex and to rape little boys and little girls. Yes, Jesus Christ tells us in Luke chapter 17, verse 2, that it would be better for him that a millstone be placed around his neck and he be cast into the sea than if he should offend one of these little ones. Yes, we as Christians, because many people say, Dr. McVety, why don't you just shut up and preach John 3:16? Why don't you just go like many of the other preachers and just preach a nice, happy, clappy goodness gospel? Yes. Well, you know what? I can't do it. The reason is Jesus Christ tells me that if any of these little ones are violated, then I must take a stand. In fact, Jesus says that whatsoever you do unto these, the least of these, you do unto me. Yes, those are the words of Christ. I have to follow him because I'm a Christian, I am a pastor, and I must protect children. And that's what we are all about, is protecting children. And for years we have waged campaigns to protect children against many dangers that they face, and one of those dangers is pedophilia, the raping of little boys and of little girls. And I ask the question to you and to me, myself, is there any good in us if we don't fight to protect children? We need to do so, because on October the 19th, OISE is going to present this symposium, Bodies at Play, who for teachers and educators. And their keynote speaker is a professor from the University of Southern California. And I'm not going to give you his name because television is very sensitive and there's a lot of censorship, and I don't want this to be censored. So you're not going to hear his name on this program. You're going to have to go to canadiantimes.ca and you'll read his writings and you'll get this professor's name and all about him, but not on this television show. So this professor from the University of Southern California is coming to teach. And what is he going to teach? He's going to teach on his title, What is this thing called a child, and why would we want to teach it? Well, this professor is well known to be a pedophilia advocate. He refers to himself in the collective personal pronoun we and us, and he says, and he calls himself a theoretical pedophile. And he has written many books on the topic. In fact, one of his books is called Child Loving. Yes, you heard me right, child-loving. And he says, and I quote from his book, if the child is desirable, then to desire it can hardly be freakish. Can you imagine that there's a professor from such a prestigious university in Southern California, and now he's coming to University of Toronto that says such a thing? But he goes on. To maintain otherwise is to put into operation pretty hefty engines of denial and self-deception. Unbelievable that someone could even write this. I mean, the infamous organization NAMBLA, North American Man-Boy Love Association, yes, for men who want to rape little boys. They list this professor as an advocate, and they quote him on their website, and they depend on his arguments for the advancement of child abuse. And he's a professor coming to the University of Toronto in our country of Canada. Yes, this professor's work has been roundly condemned by the New York Times. You know, the left-wing New York Times, they even condemned it. The Daily Mail in Britain, several British members of Parliament have condemned this man's writing, and Michael Hames of the Scotland Yard has condemned it. This professor admittedly calls himself a theoretical pedophile, but he is very careful. He's a skilled linguist. He has a PhD in English literature, and he knows how to dance around the words so he doesn't get thrown into prison in the United States. But as you know, the United States has very lax laws on what can be presented. But then once a pedophile is caught in the United States, they're thrown away for extended periods of time, 18, 20, actually the average is 18 years mandatory minimum sentencing. What does this professor teach? Well, he teaches that child molesting is a myth. He said it's extraordinarily rare, and he says that the Victorian era prudes invented the scary child molester to scare the children into the house. And in the house, they could be controlled. But once they went out into the streets and in the playgrounds, they could do as they wish. And in order to scare them, the Victorian parents created this myth of a child molester. And this man, this professor, claims that child molestation is almost unheard of. It's very, very rare. But the facts and figures say that he is not accurate. He is not telling the truth. I've seen figures as high as 1 out of 2 women have been sexually molested at one point or another in their life, that 35% of girls under the age of 18 have been sexually molested, that 20% of boys have been sexually molested. But I guess those numbers don't mean anything to this professor. He just says it's very rare, so people say, wow, you have a PhD, you're at OISE, you're at U of T, we must follow you and do as you say because you seem to know what you're talking about. In fact, his argument is so nonsensical. He claims that this separation, the distinction between adult and child, has only happened in the last 200 years, that in the past there was no distinction. So you know what? Adults loving children, children loving adults, there's no distinction. You can do as you wish. Well, this, of course, is nonsense. I mean, we have the Bible that is written 2,000 and 2,600 years and 3,000 years ago talking about children. So what is he talking about? Just a lot of nonsense in order to rationalize the urge that these perverts have to rape little boys and girls. They call them perverts because that's what they are. This is criminal activity in the country of Canada, and we must fight to stop it. In fact, in this man's child-loving book, he says, and I quote, "I will argue that the chief casualties are the very children we are protecting, needing the idea of the child to so badly that we find ourselves sacrificing the bodies of children for it. What he's saying there is that we want to protect the children so badly that we talk about them as being innocent. He doesn't believe that there is any such thing as innocent or innocence. And he goes on to teach that innocence is a desirable quality, that men want a virgin, men want an innocent being to have sex with. So the more we talk about children as innocent, the more these men are going to want to have sex with them, that they are desirable, and then that creates the child molester, and therefore we are at fault for creating the child molester because we have talked about children being innocent. Well, you know what? Children are innocent, and they need to be left that way. We cannot corrupt them in kindergarten and in grade 3 with explicit sex, and this type of philosophy has gone so far that it ends up in our classrooms, and we need to take a stand against it. And I'm going to give you more information that is shocking about this professor, this program at OISE, and how that material is a glimpse into the sex ed curriculum and this sexual revolution that is teaching even in kindergarten explicit sex to little children. We'll be right back after this short break, but I want to ask you to go to the website and sign that petition to protectourchildren.ca. I want you to go and call your member of parliament. I want you to call the prime minister, the minister of immigration, and I want you to take a stand, because this man should not be allowed in this country, and I'm going to tell you why I believe that my opinion is that after this short break. Welcome back to Canadian Times, and I ask you to go and sign the website. Get all your friends, all your relatives to sign the petition at the website, protectourchildren.ca, because if you don't, who's going to? Is your neighbor going to? Are they watching this program tonight? You're watching this by the providence of God. It's not by accident, because little children depend on what you and I do, and they do not deserve to be put in danger by social engineers that want to radically change our system of government, our system of education, and our society. Yes, the Ontario Institute for Studies and Education at University of Toronto, Ontario's largest, in fact, Canada's largest teachers' college, is having a symposium called Bodies at Play, and they're bringing in a professor. I can't give